Hey guys, so I'm Alejandro Muñoz-McDonald, and I'm a smart contract triager at Immunefi.
And my name is Igor, and I am head of business development at Hacken and Hacken Proof.
Cool. So if you guys don't know about Immunefi, Immunefi is the leading bug bounty platform in the blockchain space. So just curious, how many of you guys know what a bug bounty is? Just like raise your hand. Okay, cool. So probably about half the people in this room. Cool. So for those of you who don't know what a bug bounty program is, it's essentially a reward for hackers for finding a vulnerability in your system. So I'm sure we've been reminded time and time again how devastating a vulnerability in production in Web3 can be. So right now we have $134 million in rewards available right now. We've had $60 million paid out to white hats in our community, and those disclosures have led to $25 billion of funds being saved, so damage averted. Some of our clients include MakerDAO, Wormhole, Optimism, many of which have over $1 million in bounty rewards available. So part of what Immunefi is hoping to do here is encourage projects to heavily invest in their security and incentivize the proper disclosure of bugs. So ideally, projects will have their code audited by someone like Hacken first, and then they'll come to us for starting a bug bounty program. So I guess what we're going to talk about today is some of the differences between audits and bug bounties, where they overlap, how they might be different. So Igor, do you want to talk a little bit about what are some of the differences of audits versus bug bounties?
Yeah, sure. So the audit is typically a measure of security at a point in time, and so audit just checks the code and validates that there's no vulnerabilities, no possible interactions that can be done besides what it's designated to do. And with bounty, you give it a scope, and that's actually that's where hackers, white hat hackers, actually come in and look for different forms of exploits and how to find those vulnerabilities. With audits, that's something that's auditors have a limited time. They have a set time that they have to do it in, and they go based off of a checklist of the things that they need to verify. With bounty, it's where thousands of people with no limitation in time get super creative. That's what their thing is. They're trying to find a way how to exploit those vulnerabilities, and they're stimulated by a bounty. So that's the main difference.
Yeah, so what's really cool about the bug bounties is they're continuous. They'll run over the lifetime of your product being on chain. So bug bounty, having a bug bounty program with Immunefi, you're exposing your code to hundreds to thousands of security experts who are looking for these bugs to get rewards. So I do think one of the big differences as well between bug bounties and audits is a lot of times they can cost a lot more. So since we're trying to incentivize this proper disclosure of bugs that could result in hundreds of millions of dollars being lost, these bounty rewards have to be pretty high. So we like to push a 10% of TVL reward. So if $100 million of your protocol was at risk for a certain vulnerability, you should price the reward somewhere around $10 million. So we've seen this work really well in the ecosystem. Many of our bugs found have been able to affect hundreds to billions of dollars of funds, but they're properly disclosing them to these projects for this reward. So a lot of times bug bounties are also only concerned with critical and high findings. Audits are usually more encompassing for code base. But yeah, ideally we're incentivizing people to properly disclose these issues to projects in their live code. So why don't we get into what projects should do, like when projects should do an audit, when are they considered to be ready for an audit,
All projects should have the security mindset. That means is that as they're doing the architecture of the actual project, they should definitely consider the facts of security and implement everything that's possible. Once they're done with it, they should definitely have their internal team do all sorts of tests, their own internal audits, and only then they should come to a third-party auditor, preferably to Hacken. So they then will have an audit by us or the auditor, which will give them an opportunity to find any vulnerabilities, any mistakes, critical or high, medium, low, and then they have a chance to fix them, and then the audit's complete. And at that point, we always recommend to do a pen test and finish it off, of course, with a bug bounty. And that usually will help you uncover anything additional that might have been overlooked or somebody found a new creative way, which is what the bug bounty is all about, is allowing to do that. And we actually see that with our Hack and Proof bug bounty program, where I'm not going to mention any names, but auditing is just, like I said, it's a standard form of an audit, which allows you to verify standards and certain things that are just known. With bug bounty, you're able to uncover additional losses and opportunities for asset loss and opportunities for vulnerabilities. So that's a good way for you to kind of polish it. Think of it like a cherry on top. And then to complete the full cycle, as in Hacken, we believe that you should have a full cycle, full roadmap for your security, and that's an audit, pen test, bug bounty, and of course finish it off with insurance. Insurance also is a good form of additional security, I guess, at least for your company, for your community, your investors, and that's also important.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I've definitely heard a lot of people ask the question, should I do bug bounty? Should I do an audit? Ideally, you're doing both. These things cover separate issues, but they work best together.
You really shouldn't do either or just for sake of a check mark. Well, let's say we did it. It's something that, like I said, it should be a security mindset. And if you're thinking about security, if you're taking the necessary steps and you're actually proactive about it, you're not having to pay out unnecessary costs, I guess. You're not spending any additional money on recovery, reputable losses, or anything else that may be involved. So you should ideally do the whole thing and really be invested. Security is an ongoing thing. It's not something that you've done and forgotten about. It's something that you're on a consistent basis are thinking about, something that you should have happen, should have a bug bounty going on, because things change, approaches change, tools that hackers use change, the systems change. So as we all evolve, the system evolved, and Web3 is a very rapidly evolving industry, and things change very quickly. So anything you've done in the past can very simply change and quickly change, and you have to stay up to date. So if you did something in the past, it doesn't mean that you're done with it. You should continuously keep on looking for ways to protect yourself. And Bug Bounty is a really good program for you to do that. It allows thousands, tens of thousands of people simultaneously looking at your code and looking for creative ways to find vulnerabilities.
And we've seen some pretty creative ways.
Oh,
So, yeah.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, cool. So how about we talk about some of the differences between auditors and bug hunters? Who's looking for bugs on our platform, and who are the people working at Hacken for these different projects?
For Hack and Proof, our bug bounty program, our white hat community is about 12,000 people. And so these are engineers, specialists, graduates, enthusiasts, and they're all stimulated by finding new approaches, kind of getting new notches under their belt, and so they're constantly looking at it. So our community is rapidly growing, and we're constantly trying to add new people to it and find people that can think outside the box. That's what it's all about. It's finding somebody that's interested. They're not limited in time. They're not 9 to 5s, so they can work at any given time. At any given time, you have thousands of people potentially looking at your bugs. As you probably know, that you have these reports flying in all sorts of time of the day, and that's something that you have to take care of them. So we have a team that does triage, helps the reports and analyze them and do the proper reporting, making sure that the bugs that are reported are valid, and of course reported back to the client.
Cool. Yeah. So a lot of times these auditors are also working in a specific time frame for looking at these bugs in these projects.
Auditors are typically they're not really 9 to 5, but they do have a working day. So these guys are typically not the hackers. They're not the whole mentality that you see a guy sitting in a hoodie in the dark. That's typically probably a bug bounty person. I mean, although there probably somebody next to you could be that same that hunter. But ideally, the auditors are just kind of work either from home or from the office, and they're just regular engineers.
Yep, sweet. So I can say a lot of bug hunters on our platform. Obviously, when you're a bug hunter, your income is less consistent, but there is a trade-off of higher rewards. So a lot of bug hunters are very self-motivated. But a lot of times, we do end up seeing longer-term relationships become formed between some of our elite white hat hackers who submit these vulnerabilities to projects. So there's a lot of value there that projects can receive from developing relationships with our community of white hats. Cool. So bug bounties, really what they do is help cast a wider net to catch bugs. But ideally, they should be used as a last stopgap. So, projects should be investing heavily in their preventative security measures, such as like security experts and audits to prevent as many bugs as possible. But no one's perfect. So bug bounties really fill this gap, which may be missed by some of these other processes. They're expensive, as they should be, because they're preventing this real-world direct monetary damage, but the return on investment is very clear and really speaks for itself. I could talk recently, there was a disclosure to Wormhole about a bug that could have resulted in hundreds of millions of dollars being frozen. And Wormhole ended up paying $10 million to the white hat for disclosing that bug to them. So that's $10 million versus the hundreds of millions they would have lost. So you can really see the direct impact these bug bounties are making. But yeah, so just some of the reality of large-scale applications is they constantly iterating and improving their existing system, and this can introduce bugs. So no one is really safe. But all of these preventative measures, like fuzzing, testing, code review, audits, they can help catch a lot of these bugs before code is deployed. But bug bounties really help cover bugs that make it all the way to production. So, monitoring in the space isn't all there yet. There's a couple projects like OpenZeb and Defender that are working on monitoring tooling, but really monitoring is a reactionary mitigation method. Bug bounty programs really let you turn back time, essentially, and get notice of a bug in your system before it's actually exploited. Yeah, so do you have anything else you want to add to that?
One of the things that you have to think that the ROI on your security is something that we try to calculate what is the typical return on investment for your security. And that number is just, you can't calculate. So you have to take into consideration your reputation, your assets, your community, your investors, and everything else. So if you take care of your community, if you take care of your investments or investors, then they're going to take care of you. And we're as good as our community is. So I highly recommend you guys do the process, reach out, get a consultation, actually build out a roadmap. Any project you start off, your ideas are all great, I'm sure of it. Protect them and secure them by building out a proper roadmap, getting a proper understanding that you're doing everything possible to secure whoever is trusting in you and investing in you. And so do everything you can. There's a lot of great companies out there, Hacken, one of the best. But you guys definitely should check out your options and see what you can do and what you should be doing and build that roadmap from the beginning.
I think my biggest takeaway I want you guys to walk away with from this talk is, the way I see it is bug bounties will and are becoming a standard part of Web3 security models. So, bug bounties will just become a compulsory part of project security pipelines to prevent a lot of these devastating hacks. Just like how audits are pretty much just something projects do just because they're expected. Bug bounty programs will become a regular part of launching live contracts. So, yep. All right.
And don't do an audit after it's live. The smart contract is live. Do it before.
Yeah. Bug bounties are for after. All right.
I'm all good.
Cool. Thank you guys very much. It's great to be here.